Hi, my name is Shan. As introduced, I am an architect by training, now a software engineer. Data visualization is a field that combines both design and engineering. I always say that because it's also the excuse of why my slides is not as pretty as all the other presenters. But today I'm very excited to talk to you about data visualization and how we use design to make data a lot more easier to understand and then to drive actionable decisions from it. And as you can see, since I'm an architect, I'm really interested in the physical space. So a lot of the visualizations I work on is geospatial visualization, which, it's pretty maps, as you can see. At Uber, data is one of our biggest assets. We always like to say that we're in this many countries, this many cities, we're doing millions of trips on our platform every day. But what does those data really look like? When I first joined Uber 4 years ago, people love to talk about numbers, all big numbers being thrown around. All it matters is how many zeros you have. So up to now, today, we are doing 50 million number of trips on our platform each day. You're probably looking at this number and give it a second thinking, wow, that's a really big number, and then move on with your life. Because numbers usually cold, are usually very dry. If you're not a mathematician or an urban planner, this number doesn't really mean anything to you. But once I show you something like this is 1 day of all our trips happening in London. Every single line is one trip happening. It's one passenger being delivered from one part of the city to another. When I show you this map, you immediately become interested of the story I was trying to tell, of what this 15 million really means. And if you are from one of the cities, the story even becomes more intimate. You can see that, oh, this is where I actually work, this is where my home is, and this line may actually be me because it's from my gym to my home. Visualization helps us to better see what's behind the dry numbers. It helps us become more interested in it, and it helps us tell a better story about the numbers. And it's not only telling about personal stories, but it also tells stories of our operations. This is one map of Sydney where it was the same 1 day of trips. But when you look closer, you can actually see there are part of the map that become really noisy. Because this is actually the downtown of Sydney where they have a lot of tall buildings and tunnels. And our GPS lost signals around those areas. So this map actually very honestly reflecting to us where we actually have to improve on our business because pickup experience and driving experience may be pretty bad around that areas. And if you go one step further, if you want to be really melodramatic about this data story, this is something I did 3 years ago where I used 1 day of trip, the same data set I got from London. I created this animation. I just want to show people how each single trip is happening in the city. Every single line, like lights, is rumbling through a river of cloud. If you want to, I'm not bad, but I'm not a good portrait. But I might just stop talking to give you a moment to really watch this and try to think that whether all these things being created with just dry numbers can actually mean anything to you. At the data visualization team, we make maps to gain insights from geospatial data. Maps can come in many different forms. There are many types of maps that try to reflect one aspect of human interaction with the physical world, whether it's about connectivity or intensity or distribution or regionality. We use all this map to better tell us how humans reside and move around in the physical world. Spot is something we always start from the beginning. When you have a data set with just 1 day of all Uber activities, what would you do? You put them on a map. This is a map of New York with 1 day of every single person looking at the Uber app. They're not even taking a ride. They just open the map, and then we got the ping. We always do this kind of map before we even launch in one single city. Because once we know there are actually people interested in using Uber, it's a good chance for us to go inside. Or we want to look at this map when we're actually in New York. We want to know how many people are using it and how people find our service reliable. Distribution. Once you have those raw events, you actually want to go one step further upon that. What you do is that you draw this kind of 3D density map where every single point projects into one hexagon bin, and then you can add a third dimension, which is the height, to each of the hexagon. This map is created with 1 million taxi trip. I have to hide Uber data at some point, of New York. But you can see there are many tall bars around the airport or the Upper East Side, signaling those are the areas that have very high density of taxi pickups happening. Now we're talking about movement. We're talking about transportation. Connectivity is something we always want to look at. We don't just want to look at points. Points are just single events. We actually care about where people are going from one place of the city to another place of the city. That's why we draw this type of network maps where we connect every single start point of a trip to the end point of a trip. This is a network map of London, where by showing it, you can already see there are certain part of the city have a very strong connection with another part. You can tell how the network of transportation happening just by seeing like 1 million of people taking trips from one part to another. And if you want to go one step beyond that, if you want to create an interactive experience, interact with this network, we build this application where everyone can just mouse over one part of the map and then highlighting connections start or end around that part of the map. And why does it matter? By interacting with the map like this, we can actually tell that, okay, there's one part of maybe downtown. There's a lot of trips start and end from downtown to downtown Brooklyn. This is actually how we verify the product idea of Uber Pool, because we need to know there are similarities between or patterns between people travel through different parts of the city before actually launch a product where allow people share rides. Movement. When it comes down to everything, we care about traffic. We care about how moving around the city impact on the traffic patterns. After we launch Uber Pool, we want to monitor the effect of it on the transportation system. So I use this kind of animation to draw just one day of Uber Pool compared to if those people didn't take Uber Pool, what would the traffic be like? On top of that, I use color to signify traffic volumes. I overlay colors on top of the movement of the lines, and then created this animation. The brighter the color is, signaling the more traffic that area is. And when I compare it with the other side, where if those people didn't take Uber Pool, they travel separately, what the traffic impact would be. This visual is very helpful, at least for me, when I show it to people immediately get it. They can tell there are difference between traffic volume, and they can tell why Uber Pool is a good product. I remember showing this to our head of economy. He's like, this is almost too good to be true. And then he asked if I actually faked the data or not. But this whole design process is why data visualization matters. I tried many different ways of visualizing. I tried animating it. I tried using different color scale. Eventually, I arrived at this animation. So beyond beautiful maps, until this point, you probably see enough maps that all of them look beautiful to you. And that's what you probably think that's what she does every day. But the answer is yes. After I joined Uber for 4 years, I made millions of maps. But at the end of the day, what I don't like is someone come to me saying, I love the visuals, can I use it as my screensaver? Believe it or not, I got it a lot. But as a data visualization practitioner, we always have to push ourselves harder. We always to resist the attempt to just stop at the point where the visual is beautiful. Because all it matters is where someone actually learns something from it, or whether you are telling the right story with it. Designing a meaningful visualization is actually a trial and error. It's actually a hard journey. Usually, what you start with is that you're collecting some data, you process it, you run all different scripts, and then you try to play around with different visual encodings, and then generate multiple visualizations. In the end, you choose one that actually tells the best story. And as a software engineer, this process happens daily. I know I have my job security, but on the other side, I kind of want to create a tool that can help anyone do this whole process more painlessly. The Uber pool visualization took me 2 weeks, but now I want to create a tool that can make it a lot easier for anyone to do that journey in less than a couple hours. So at the visualization team, we actually also created tools to make maps. One of the tools we created is called Kepler-GL. We built Kepler-GL so that anyone can just explore a vast amount of data with very minimum time in the browser. So it's all browser-based. And Kepler-GL is a data-agnostic, WebGL-empowered, high-performance web application for geospatial visualizations. And good news is Kepler-GL is also open source by us. All the maps I showed you before was actually made by me using Kepler-GL. Oh, I also built it, by the way. Well, I forgot to say that because I'm an engineer. We create all-in-one UI for designing data-driven maps. From data processing to filtering to trying out different visualization layers and interacting with it, Kepler-GL does it all in one single web UI. It has this Photoshop look kind of interaction, just so that designer can also play around with it. And then adding this layer-based concept where you have a base map, you can try using our preset layers to turn them into different visualization types. It's simple. You can just easily drag and drop a file, geospatial encoded file into the UI. We'll try our best to detect what kind of geospatial data you have in it. And then you can quickly interact it with by changing the colors, changing the dimensions, play around with different color scale, as you can see, I like green. And then turn the map different ways, turn it into 3D just so that you can drag around, interact, and take a closer look or looking at it from a higher level. And embedded was this geotemporal interaction because all the data we collected have a time element to it. So it automatically detects the time element and allow you to do the playback in just one simple couple of clicks. This is an animation I made with past 40 years of California earthquakes, and because we're all worried about earthquakes in California. It also allows you to do on-the-fly aggregations, showing densities from very raw geospatial events. And it allows you to change different color scale to highlight anomalies or filter out those anomalies and redistribute it to see the patterns of other areas. In the end, you have this really fancy, my favorite demo of all time. It also allows you to do the nice brushing interaction. This is a data set I collected showing the commute between work location and where people actually live. This is about like a couple 100,000 lines. And then you can move around your mouse to see how the connections between different areas. So it's hosted online. You can actually play around with it by just drag and drop your own data sets. And all the demos I showed before is also hosted as examples for you to play. And last but not least, we are also nominated or shortlisted in the Information is Beautiful award. And if you like, please vote for us. You have exact 5 hours left. I mean, Um, so in the field of data visualization, we have this is our team. We have front-end engineer, computer graphic engineer, UI designer, information designer. And if you're interested in talking to me about visualization or ask one of the images as a screensaver, please come to me and talk in the end.